We're alive. Hi, Luke.
We're
How are you?
live! It's exciting. It's exciting. I mean, you do it all the time. Sometimes you get used to it and then it's not as exciting. But when you really think about it, it's exciting being
Mm.
live.
And alive. Being alive
Yeah.
is also, it can be, again, well, it can be boring. I
I'm
have
reading a
to think
book that
about
would say
boring things.
otherwise, but yeah.
Mm.
Well, for those of you who are joining, I'm joined today by Francis Carlisle from the UK, and we're going to be doing a collaborative live stream today. And I hope it'll be interesting. It could be fun, could be a major disaster. There's just no way to be sure. So we'll see how it goes. But we've got some things planned. uh, if you guys, since you just joined, haven't already, I would appreciate if you could just hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see future, let's say, interviews, discussions, videos, and so on. And we're going to be talking a little bit about Francis's courses, so also make sure to check those out. And mine, if you really want. If you scroll way down under Francis's, you can check that out too. I mean, if you want to. You can check those out as well. They're both on sale, as a matter of fact, in the description. I'm going to just quickly update the thumbnail because that's what I have to do. It's very important because I spent time making it, and it would be a real shame not to use it. So give me a second there. Francis, how's life? What's going on with you? Anything new? Anything exciting?
Yes, life is good. Thank you very much. It depends how new we're talking. I mean, right now I'm in Mexico.
Oh, that's
Um,
new. That's new. I thought you were in
yeah.
Colombia.
Well, I was. But for various visa reasons, I
Hmm.
have to take a little time out from Colombia and pop up to Mexico.
Where are you
Um,
in Mexico? I mean, could you?
right now we're in Cancun,
Oh, okay. Vacation
which
spot.
is, yes, it is. I mean, it's famously like a beach place. Um, but I suppose we spent a lot of time in, in Bali and in Thailand and in places like that where I guess, it's a similar kind of a feeling, but it's not as expensive. And we came to Cancun and we were pretty shocked because Cancun is kind of, it feels like it's set up to try and take as much of your money as it possibly can.
Less so than Bali.
Oh, way. No, less so than Bali? Way
More so
more
than.
than Bali.
That's what I meant to
Yeah.
say. It's what I said, but you misheard me.
I see. I apologize for my ears. My ears will issue a
Yeah,
full written apology for that.
yeah.
But yeah, so far we've been here for only about 4 days, and we've just been, working and things like that. So we're looking forward to the weekend because that's when we'll properly get to know Cancun.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's what's new with me.
What is the hotel or resort you're staying at, and which room, if you don't mind? Is that too personal? I think that's a normal question.
I feel like the first half of it was sort of within the bounds of polite conversation,
Yeah.
and the second one made a big jump into being
I
creepy.
crossed the line. I think,
And
yeah. But I think if I
which
had gone more slowly,
room?
I could have worked us into it, you know?
You're right. Yeah. You could have gradually gained my trust.
Right.
But as it is, I'm suspicious.
Yeah.
If I'm a dog, my hackles are up
Your hackles
and
are
my
up.
tail has gone between my legs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. This man has bad intentions.
yeah.
All right.
Hmm,
Well, we've got quite a few people here already, which is good news. Um, so I think what we'll do is I have some questions for you, Francis. I want to kind of pick your brain. Francis,
okay.
if you guys don't know, he speaks many languages. He's a language learner. It's 3 or 4 languages, Francis. You speak Spanish, you
Three.
speak Chinese, and you speak English?
English as well. Yeah, my English is, I'm working on it.
Right.
It's a work in progress.
Okay. So we'll talk I want to talk a little bit about that, but you're also an English teacher. A professional English teacher, ex IELTS examiner. certainly at least twice as professional as me. So I'm very excited to ask you some questions to learn some things personally, so that I can be a better teacher, hopefully, and also I think the viewers will appreciate your insights into the language learning process, both as a learner and a teacher, I hope. And then I think we can do some questions. Maybe people have questions. So if you guys have questions about whatever, then you can ask Francis questions. If you really want to ask me questions, I guess I can answer a question or two. But you have a chance now to ask Francis questions. He's an Englishman, right? So think about some questions that might be related to that, or whatever. We have questions about pronunciation, questions about writing. Francis says one of his latest courses is about writing. I think it's the last one you put up, right? So if you have questions about improving your writing skills, very important, or whatever. Culture differences. If you want to know Francis's opinions about things, you could ask that if you want to. But before we do that, I do have some questions. So maybe we can start, Francis, with your language learning background a little bit. So
Yeah.
As I understand it, you learned Chinese first and then Spanish, right?
That's right. Yeah. Well, it's ever so slightly more complicated. I started Spanish about 12 years ago, but only with a kind of an evening class, 1.5 hours a week. And I did that for about 6 months and made virtually no progress.
Like high school students. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. Like
I took Spanish for 2 years. I couldn't tell you a single word.
Yeah, it really was genuinely a waste of time.
Yeah.
And then I was in the UK at that point, and then I moved to China, and I lived in China for nearly 9 years.
Holy smokes! I didn't realize you were in China that long.
Yeah, I moved in 2011 and mid 2011, and then I stayed until the end of 2019. So, well, 8.5 years. Let's put it like that.
So we moved to China at the same time around. I moved to China in November of 2011.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, I thought you'd been there sort of since the beginning of time or something like that.
What? Is that the impression you have of me? I'm an expat fossil. Is that how you think of me? I mean, so just a little background. Francis and I'm asking Francis, questions like he's someone I don't know that well, but Francis and I have known each other for quite some time and have worked together on things. Same time, I guess. When did you arrive, actually?
August of 2011.
You know what? Actually, I think I might have arrived in August. No, it was September. September, yeah.
But different places, right? Different cities.
You arrived in Dalian?
No, I arrived in Suzhou.
Suzhou, okay. So you were in Suzhou.
Not Suzhou, not the very nice kind of, has a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a lot of tourism and lovely canals and things like that. Not that place.
Oh.
I arrived in Suzhou.
Oh, Suzhou. I've never even heard of that. Where is that?
It's almost exactly halfway between Beijing and Shanghai.
Okay.
It's right on its main kind of claim to fame, which is a good phrase, by the way. Claim to fame means why someone's famous. Is that it is like on the train line, the fast train between Beijing and Shanghai. Oh no, Beijing and Shanghai. And so sort of halfway you can get off and hang out in Suzhou for a day. But I don't recommend it because it's small, it's pretty polluted. It wasn't, yeah, it was. Yeah, who knows what it is now? I haven't been there for 8 years, but when I was there, it was pretty bad with the pollution. But the people are very nice. I have lots of friends there. So if my friends are watching, I'm sorry to say such bad things about the air in Suzhou.
Yeah.
I had a fun time. But yes, it is a small place.
Yeah.
It is a very small place.
Yeah. I know. Those small towns are interesting in their own way, but not so much to do. Right. Okay. So then, could you talk a little bit about your language learning, the language learning part of that, going from Chinese then to seriously learning Spanish? And I'd be curious to know what things, especially in how you failed and how you found things that worked for you, and maybe if there are things that are universal. Because I think for people who have learned more than one language, or rather more than one second language, third language, and so on, you could probably have some insights that other people, and I've interviewed other people who have confirmed that. So, what things are universal as well? It's kind of a weird question, but
Well, I mean, there's about three questions in there, isn't there?
yeah, and then they're all mixed together, kind of swirling around, and none of them really have question marks because I said some of them as statements. So, do with that thing that I said what you will.
I will. So basically, the questions is languages. What do you think about them?
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, my journey was that I pretty much as soon as I arrived in China, I realized, all right, well, I need to learn Chinese because um, Chinese people study English a lot in school,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but because of the way that it's sort of taught without really many opportunities to speak. So a lot of people don't develop the sort of the confidence to speak.
Right.
So I was having a lot of like in my first few days in China, I was on the street saying things to people, and there was we had absolutely nothing to connect us in terms of language because those people weren't confident enough to use their English. I was completely like, I didn't have any Chinese at that point. I think I knew how to say hello and I knew how to say rice. And that was about it. And thank you. I think I'd learned thank you. Um, anyway, so I started learning like pretty intensely for about the first year. Um, and it was very slow progress because, I mean, as anyone knows who's studied Chinese, it's very different to, say, the Romance languages, to French and Italian and Spanish, and then, English and
Right.
Germanic language. It's very far away from it. Like you start from absolute zero, from nothing. Um, so it took a long time. And I did that first year pretty intensely. And after the first year, I was probably, I could have a simple conversation. And then after that, it started to snowball, which means that it gets like a snowball coming down a hill. It starts very small and then it picks up more and more snow and it comes down and it comes down and it gets faster and it gets bigger. And that was how I felt with my
So
Chinese.
it's sort of like this, and then it starts to go like that rather quickly.
Exactly, yeah. Like the first part of it is a real grind. It's very, very difficult. But then once you hit a certain point, everything starts to sort of go ding, 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 like
Right.
that, and
The
you
links
start
are
making
made.
all
Yeah.
of these connections.
Yeah.
So it is very satisfying when that happens. And my Chinese isn't perfect. Like I still have to study, I still have to practice. But my main advice about someone starting to study Chinese, someone, let's say, who can speak English, or it maybe is from like a European language or something like that, is don't give up. It's going to be difficult at first, but don't give up, because once you get past that first bit, the really difficult bit, suddenly it gets faster and you're having a great time, and it's very, very satisfying.
Because then you can start using it, right? I mean, really
Well,
using
exactly.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Spanish was the opposite. So when I started learning Spanish seriously, because there's so much shared language with Spanish and English, you can kind of get to a reasonable level a lot quicker, like much, much quicker than in Chinese. So I did, I'm actually going to give a shout out to a website, like a company that I used, which was
You're going to
called
shout out the language itself.
Baseline.
Shout out to German.
Big thanks to Spanish for letting me study. Really appreciate it. No, so Baselang is a company that does like
Baselang, L-A-N-G.
L-A-N-G. So like the base of the language.
Got it.
Baselang. And yeah, so they do like online Spanish classes, and you pay quite a lot of money. You pay about $150 a month.
149. I just checked.
Oh, there you go. But then you can study as much as you want. If you wanted, you could do 24 hours a day for the whole month. I wouldn't recommend that, but you could if you wanted. And so when I did that, when I did like a really intensive, like 2 or 3 months of studying, maybe 2.5 hours a day of conversation, plus some extra studying, my Spanish came from sort of, a pretty low level to, let's say, upper intermediate. Not completely advanced, but it improved a lot. And so the big difference for me really was the time, just purely the time, because you start so much further back with Chinese compared to with Spanish, if you're coming from a European language background. If you're coming from, let's say, you're Japanese, it's a different story, of course.
So the conjugations are sort of superficial then. I mean, the roots of the language are not hard to grab hold of.
That, I think, is something that, are you asking that because you remember that from school?
I remember that from school. That is the extent of my memory from school. Like the stupid boot thing. Yeah. Hated that.
Go on. Give us a conjugation then.
Pop quiz. Well, I remember.
What about the word to eat? Do you know the verb to eat? Comer.
I didn't know that this was gonna happen, Francis. Let's see. Okay, so you got the two, right? Two is but su is more formal. Is that right? Is it tu and su, right? Is that correct? Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But
so isn't it
okay?
Su
is like his or her. Su problema es algo. But go on.
I think you just gave me the answer.
You have
no? It's there's a yamo at the end, isn't there?
Hold on. I feel like you're you're scrabbling for time here. What would it be if we say
any Spanish speakers listening? Now you know. I don't speak any Spanish. My 2 years of high school Spanish were utterly wasted. I spent it making videos from Google translated Spanish, and I was more interested in making the videos and had no interest in actual Spanish in high school.
Well, there we go. But yeah, anyway, so the conjugations, I think, are obviously, it's important, you have to learn them. But a lot of it is shared, like once you've sort of learned 3 or 4 rules,
right,
you can know everything. And so it's the work of a couple of weeks. It's very doable.
That's kind of what I meant by superficial, those sorts of things that, I know this thing, I'll just apply it to most things.
That's pretty much it. And obviously there are irregular, like in any language, there are irregular verbs where they have a different rule. But, it's the irregular verbs are not so it's not everywhere. My memory of French is that there were a lot more irregular verbs.
I seem to have that vague memory too, because I took a year of French in college and also learned. Yeah. I remember this is a clinic in how terrible of a university and high school student I was. I was actually a good student, but I had no interest in what I was doing. I was focused on other things. So anyway, um, so those two experiences for you,
Mm.
what things could you say, just step back for a second and say, what things are universal principles that you could apply? Let's say, oh, I learned this in the process of learning Chinese, this method or this approach, and I'm going to use that approach or method or style of learning, study method, whatever it is, in Spanish. And I could do it if I learned Swahili or whatever. You could take that anywhere.
Well, as you've been asking your question there, I've had three thoughts.
Okay.
Let's
Wow,
see.
that's high frequency thoughts. Very good.
Yeah,
I
these
have
thoughts
one
are,
thought an hour,
yeah, that's my usual rate. About a thought an
especially
hour.
after 10 p.m. I know you.
Mm,
After 10 p.m.,
that's
Francis's
true.
thought frequency goes down to
It
yeah,
really does. Do you
yeah.
know that uh, I slept today? I did kind of a U-look. I slept until 11 a.m., which is absolutely like I have no memory of the last time I did that because I'm
Interesting.
much more of a morning person.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, today I went to bed at a normal time and I just kept on sleeping. I just didn't wake up. Well, eventually I woke up because I mean,
Yeah,
unless this is
you.
a dream. Is this a dream?
Well, it's a for me it's a nightmare. I mean, I'm on. So what happened was yesterday, I stayed up until, as I usually do, 4 or 5 in the morning because I'm working all the time, and because my peak hours are between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. My brain is crackling at those hours for whatever reason. I'm just very on and very keyed in.
Wow.
But if you were to talk to me at noon, which is now, I'm I'm quite slow and kind of dull and not very on. But so I think we're the opposite in that sense. So we were supposed to do this conversation yesterday, and I slept right through it. And we were supposed to do the conversation at noon, and I woke up at 12:10 or something like that, and I felt mildly guilty.
Well, it was okay because we figured it out eventually. But I
Yeah.
was worried that I was going to do the same. You know, I almost did the same today.
That would have
And
been that would have been hilarious. That would have been worth it just for the irony. Uh, so yeah, what were the three thoughts that you had?
yeah. So the first one is that you have to really try to like lean in to the sort of correct pronunciation of words because I see a lot of I think this might be a particularly sort of American and British problem. Um, but you see a lot of people trying to speak another language in their own voice, in
Mm.
their own accent.
Yeah.
So
Ni
like
hao.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Ni hao, xie xie ni.
No, it's more
Um,
like xie.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's say what you see on the paper.
Yeah. What? No, if you say what you see, then most Americans are going to go, xie, right? Because when we see X, we flip out.
That's true. Um, but I think that that's probably the most important thing is to sort of put your embarrassment aside
Hmm.
and to really try to say things in a way that is not just saying them in your normal voice. It's almost like acting. That's how I feel about learning languages and speaking a foreign language to someone. It's like a performance, and you have to develop the confidence to perform. Just like, you know, if you're a musician or you're an actor or you're a dancer, you have to develop the kind of the confidence to go on stage, even though you know things might go wrong, you might not be perfect, you might make mistakes, you might feel embarrassed, but you still have to do it. If
Right.
you can't get past that initial stage of performing in the sort of like in a voice that is not your own voice,
Got it. Yeah.
then it's very hard to learn a language. And that was the thing that I think I learned with Chinese. Um, you've got to kind of put your uncomfortableness and embarrassment about speaking in a different voice aside, put it to the side, and then things become a lot easier, and the level that you'll be able to reach becomes a lot higher. So yeah, that's the first thing.
Where does that meet awkward put on voice? Because sometimes I feel that English learners are in particular will try to put on an American accent, which actually makes them sound less natural because it doesn't have the stuff that's under it, which is the knowledge of the culture and stuff. And so actually those two things kind of go together. So do you see what I mean? Where do those two things meet? When do you, because if someone tries to put on a fake British accent, right? There is, I feel, some awkwardness compared to someone who has somewhat of a Chinese accent and is not really trying to do any particular accent, but is trying to maybe remove some of those things which make them have a strong accent, some of those very strong things, and move more toward neutral.
Well, I don't think that I quite agree with you on that, because I quite like when my students, if they do a good job of it, if my students go for an accent, they pick out an accent, let's say a British accent or sort of a neutral American accent or something like that. I think it works as long as they do it well. There's some people who kind of do it in a very, very exaggerated way and end up talking kind of like the Queen, but not done sort of very well. Like the Queen, if the Queen made loads of grammar mistakes. And I think it's a hard question. It's hard to say exactly where the line is. But I don't mind. I quite like having someone who's made the effort and tried to speak with an accent, because it shows to me that they have some degree of interest and some commitment. It's also
awareness of the sounds.
Right, exactly. It's also okay if you do as you say and have kind of a more, just let's say, international, non-native speaker accent, but you've ironed out all of those little, like, for example, in Chinese, the TH sound.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Is a very common one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the real problem, for me, either of those are okay. The accent or just general international accent, but get the pieces right. The problem comes when people don't even reach the general international accent, when they try to say everything using the rules from their own language. I think that is kind of the real problem.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that a lot of like people like us fall into, Luke, like people who are learning, like, let's say, Americans and British people who, for whatever reason, don't seem to feel comfortable going for a more authentic and making that uncomfortable jump into speaking more authentically.
Yeah.
And just want to say things following our own rules.
Yeah. That's more of a mindset thing, though, right? That's kind of how you approach it. Yeah, in terms of your mentality, your attitude. Yeah. I think you have one more thing, right? One more thought.
That was one thing.
Oh, that was one thing. All right. Well, let's fly through number 2 and 3 if you'd like, and then I have a couple questions about teaching.
Well, number 2 and 3, I must admit I've forgotten what they are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we spoke so much about number 1, but number 2. What was the question? I can't even remember the question.
Universals of language.
I only woke up an hour ago, so my brain hasn't quite switched into gear yet.
Very good excuse. I like that.
The Luke excuse.
Yeah, the Luke excuse. Universals. It was universals, but I mean, it's okay. We can pass that because we're going to answer some questions anyway, so that's fine. No big deal.
I remembered one of them.
Okay.
Don't learn words by themselves. Learn words in short sentences and phrases. And that has served me very well in Chinese and in Spanish, and it's something that I always suggest to my students. Don't just learn, I have a lot of students in China who will learn just a vocabulary list. I even had one student who learned from a dictionary. He would just go through the dictionary word by word and learn all of the words.
Yeah.
So he was great with like anything starting with A. He had a fantastic vocabulary.
My A's are great. My R's, not there yet. Give me 10 years.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah. And a lot of the words in the dictionary are extremely uncommon, esoteric, weird words that nobody would use. Right.
Exactly.
Especially if he's looking at a medical dictionary. I hope he's not doing that. Okay. Good advice.
Yeah, that's another big tip. Short sentences is the best way to learn the meaning of a word, but also how to use it. And it's a lot more efficient. You'll save a lot of time along the way.
Good tips. And we'll look at some questions later, but I appreciate that. Guys, I appreciate you joining. I know we haven't interacted with the chat much, but we will. Don't worry, we will. I promise. But I want to talk to Francis a little bit about teaching, so hang out for that, and then we'll get to some questions. So make sure you leave those in the chat, and we will try to get to them. And we're going to do something else as well. If you haven't already, I would appreciate if you guys could hit the like button if you enjoy this live class or any of the others that we do. It really helps the channel. Also hit subscribe, and that will allow you to see future videos, live streams, things that I post. Francis has some English learning courses, and you can check those out. Those are on sale, right? There's a special sale. What's the discount on that?
It is, well, it's two different ones. I'll have to double check, but it's a lot.
It's a lot. Okay, it's like a crazy sale.
60 or 70% discount.
Good God, you guys better jump on that, because I think that's a big mistake, Francis. You blew it, but guys, jump on it. A terrible error.
I'll be homeless by tonight.
Yeah, go grab Francis's courses. Which one would you recommend they start with?
Well, we have a one. Actually, well, I shouldn't say this, but we do have a one that's free. I don't think it's there in your links, Luke.
Okay.
It's a general English writing course.
Okay.
So it's good for like if you are writing essays for university or writing emails, or letters. I guess people still write letters occasionally.
Yeah.
Also for exams, for things like that, and it kind of takes you through a lot of the most common mistakes, grammar mistakes, writing mistakes that people make. And it also gives you some sort of new tips and things to make your writing a bit more elegant, a bit more natural, improve the kind of your grammar structure when it comes to longer sentences.
Which one are we looking at there? That's this one, right?
It is, yeah. Formal English writing. Go to the next level.
All right, go to the next level, and then the ones they can also check out are. Oh, what happened?
Is that me? Is that you?
Did you hear that? I got a phone. That was a sudden thing, and I apologize. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I need to. This is weird. Here's what happened. Let me just explain it. This is. Let me explain. This is an interesting thing. Hold on. I need to send Mushroom a quick question.
Why are you calling me?
I'm gonna send. This is the message I'm sending. Let the guy in. He needs. I'm sending a message to my wife. He needs to look at the corner. Okay.
The corner.
Yeah.
What's happened with the
So my
corner, Luke?
apartment is collapsing.
Ooh.
The
You're going to be homeless by tonight.
right.
And you wanted it would
The
be.
corner of my apartment has the balcony above my balcony has a leak, and it's leaking down into my apartment, and it's been doing this for 2 years. They fixed it, and then it started again, and it just sort of melts. The whole corner is melting. Now, to be honest with you, it's not the worst thing in the world because I can always use it as a sort of a point of complaint. Whenever they try to raise my rent, I say, well, what about the corner? And then they say, oh, yeah, okay. And so my rent has been the same for 5 years. It's been stable because I complain about that. But they're here to fix it, or they're here to look at it, maybe. And I forgot that's going to happen.
You call the corner people.
Yeah. Hold on a second. I'm gonna mute Francis. Can you explain a little bit more about your courses and which one people should take? And then I need to scream at Mushroom to tell her what to do, and then I'll be right back. Okay?
Can we not come and watch you scream at Mushroom? That sounds great.
You want to watch? All right. Hey,
really
Mushroom. Hey, Mushroom. Can you come here for a second? Can you please? So, I'm live streaming. Can you let Polly in? Can you actually message Michael and say, tell him to buzz again? There's a guy downstairs, Bali. He's going to come and look at the corner of the apartment.
Guy's here.
He's here. He was just buzzing.
Yeah.
He's in here?
Yeah.
He's in our house.
No. He's beside the door.
He's beside. Let him in.
Yeah. Okay.
Just let him in.
Okay.
He's a nice person. No, it's okay. Thank you.
Luke, does that mean that, like with every horror movie ever, the phone call was coming from inside the house?
Well, apparently he was calling standing outside my door. So inside the building, it's not quite as dramatic, right?
Mm.
But glad everyone knows about my problems now. That's nice.
Your corner issues.
This live class has been a disaster in terms of structure, but I'm also enjoying it. So,
to be honest, everybody, this is how it is whenever we speak. It's just like the conversation is all over the place, and then we never really do anything. We never achieve anything.
Am I to blame, or is it just our dynamic? Because I feel like conversations I have with other people are, someone in the chat said, let Michael join the class. No, Michael isn't here. Bali is here. Michael sent Bali. Michael is too important to come to my house. I've never met him before. He's been my landlord for 5 years. I've never met the man.
Wow.
He's very important. He's too important. He wouldn't deign. No, but I feel like we have this dynamic where whenever we talk, it does have this sort of thing that happens, but I don't feel that way with everyone. So I think it's just I don't know what it is. Whatever.
Yeah, we have a certain dynamic. That's the right word.
For
I
better or
remember
worse.
a few years ago, we were in Beijing.
Yeah.
And we made we tried to make a short sort of 3 or 4 minute video about the differences between British English and American English.
Right.
And that 3 or 4 minute video with I think there was about 3 or 4 learning points, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like 3 or 4 different. And we did, the video was 20 minutes.
No, it was 35 minutes.
It was what?
The whole video we filmed was 35 minutes long. We tried to do a 3-minute video, and it was 35 minutes. And I cut it down to 20 with major cuts.
Like just the whole Francis bit. Let's get rid of the whole Francis bit.
Yeah, I cut out you, and I just had myself in there.
And me just next to you, looking on admiringly.
Yeah. I cut the admiring glances and superimposed that. If you guys want to check out that video, I think it's called American English versus British English or something like that. It's way down in the channel, but you can check it out. You can see that Francis and I, in fact, have known each other for quite some time. That was filmed in Beijing at that co-working space, which was very cool.
It was a very cool co-working space, and then I think they got shut down, or they got something major changed there.
Fire thing. They said the tables were a fire hazard because Jack Ma or someone went there. Someone went there. Oh, the French.
Macron went
Yeah,
there.
Macron went there. That's who went there, and then they realized it was a fire hazard. Yeah, it was cool. Anyway, so which one should people start with? That's not the free one. Which one would you recommend? Going with the IELTS academic writing or the IELTS speaking one?
I would say the IELTS academic writing, because even if you're not taking the no, let me change that. The IELTS speaking, because even if you're not planning to take the IELTS test soon or ever, it's got a lot of kind of general English stuff in there. It's got a bunch of idioms, a bunch of really nice phrases, common grammar mistakes that people make when they're speaking, common pronunciation mistakes that people make. So it's very kind of practical for everybody to improve their English. It's not just for IELTS. So yeah, IELTS speaking is a good one to take.
IELTS speaking. Yeah, I mean, and if you can get good at IELTS speaking, that's not just IELTS speaking. You're getting better at speaking and life. Yeah. A better figure skater, all of those things. Well, actually, so maybe we can do it like this. Maybe we can take a couple questions, and then I have another question for you. So we'll just kind of go back and forth, if that's cool. Is that okay with you, Francis?
Yes, that's fine with me, Luke.
I don't know what I would do if you said it wasn't. I'm not sure.
No, I'm just going to say, I'll listen to the question, but I won't answer it. There's no way you're getting me to answer. You're not the boss of me.
We can sit here in silence. It's fine. That'll be very interesting. People already know about my apartment problems, and why not? Okay, so Aleda says, what's the difference between IELTS and Cambridge First Certificate? I don't know what Cambridge First Certificate is. Do you know what that is?
No, okay, I don't.
Sorry, Aleda.
Yeah, sorry. But IELTS, let me just tell you what IELTS does, because I can at least answer that part. IELTS is, well, it's as you guys know, it's a test to test how good your English is. And it's mostly accepted in the UK, in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, I guess South Africa as well, but I'm not sure. In America, generally, if you're applying, let's say for university, they want the TOEFL test rather than the IELTS test. But anywhere else that you're applying for university or for moving there, like to live or to work or to, let's say, move to be with your family there, it's the IELTS test. And the IELTS test actually has several different versions. There's the academic version for students. There is the general version, which is for people who want to work. And then there's also another one, which is it's related to sort of visas. It's like the life skills, I think it's called. And it's much less well known. But I've been researching that one recently because Elizabeth, who is my mushroom, is going to move with me. That's what I call it. I say, hey, my mushroom, could you pass me some tea?
So many things I'm not saying.
Yeah, so she is Colombian, and and that's why we were in Colombia.
Right.
And she has to take the IELTS life skills test to go to the UK next year, because we're going to move to the UK.
Very good.
But it's good for her because the IELTS life skills is a lot easier than the academic test or the general test. I think it only has a speaking part and a little bit of a reading part.
She doesn't even need to prepare for that, right? I mean,
no, she doesn't.
English is she's almost at a native level, isn't she? Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, if she were to take the IELTS academic test, she would get at least 8 out of 9, maybe 9 out of 9.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, she's very good.
It's just a
So
formality. She
exactly.
teaches or taught English, right?
Yeah, she taught English as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
so she knows what she's doing.
She knows
My
what she's
much.
doing. I'm not sure how I feel about that one, but I'll let it pass. Jordan says, how to improve my English speaking alone, which actually I think is a good question. And then he wonders if that would be a good topic to talk about, and I think it is. So I think this is a question about self-study, but maybe not only self-study, because I think it's obvious that people will study by themselves, but maybe in general speaking skills that you can do by yourself or something like that.
Yeah, so I think that there's a limit to how much you can improve speaking by yourself, but the limit is quite high. You know, it's not a sort of there's no point doing it. It's not that situation. It's certainly worth doing. So I think the things that you can improve if you're speaking by yourself would be number one, your fluency. So if you are, let's say you're talking about, let's say, I don't know, sports, for example,
Beans.
and you, a big pardon?
Beans.
Beans, you're talking about beans, yes, exactly. So you can look up questions online. What questions do people usually ask about beans? And find a list of questions about beans or sports. And then just answer them to yourself. And what I like to do, and what I recommend my students do, is make recordings on your phone. So if you get a question, what is your favorite sport and why do you like it? Then you can try and answer it by yourself and then listen back. And it seems like a very simple thing, but actually, when you listen to yourself speaking another language, you immediately notice some problems. Like when I do that for myself in Spanish, I noticed all kinds of things that I didn't realize I was doing. I had big, long pauses in the middle of my sentences. And there were certain words that I could tell I wasn't pronouncing correctly, or I was pronouncing in sort of a weird way. And it didn't sound natural. And then you immediately find something that you can work on and you can improve. And then you can practice whatever that word is, record it again, see if it sounds better. Or if it's a question of, let's say, your sports vocabulary is not very good, then you can go away, you can study some sports vocabulary, and then you can come back and you can try the same question again. You can record on your phone and then listen again. And most likely it'll be better the second time, and it'll be even better the third time. So that's, for me, the main way. Now, there's certain things that you can't do, or that it's very difficult to do when you are like speaking alone. And the main one is improving your grammar. Because most of the time, if we're making like some simple grammar mistakes, we often don't know that we're making them, or maybe we don't understand the grammar.
Even if we heard it back, we wouldn't recognize it because that's just a lack of knowledge, right?
Yeah. And so that kind of thing you do need a teacher for, or you need some other resources for. But yes, it's certainly true that you can improve a lot. You can improve your vocabulary, you can improve your fluency, and you can improve your pronunciation to some level by speaking by yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that seems to be effective, and I know quite a few English learners who do that on a regular basis. And what I see is an ability to take something that normally isn't stuff we can be aware of and move it outside as though it were another person. If your friend who is at your level of speaking is talking about something, you're going to be able to notice things about what they say because you're not them. Being yourself makes it sort of harder to be aware of things often, right? And so when you make a recording, even an audio recording, yes, a video recording too, actually, that can, I mean, that you have to look at yourself and see yourself speaking. It makes it more objective. There is a person there, and what can I do to help this person over there? And then you bring it back into yourself, and it helps develop this self-awareness, which is really important.
Yeah, there's a video. As a very good idea. I never thought about video.
My suggestion to people, if they want to just take it all the way, is to start a YouTube channel. Because if you can seriously summon the bravery to just start a YouTube channel, you're going to have to edit your videos. You're going to have to watch yourself constantly. You're going to have to be very critical of yourself. You're going to get used to yourself speaking and what that sounds like and looks like. And also, you're putting something out there for others to see, and that adds a layer of stress and sort of pressure that's going to force you to want to be impressive, or at least well-spoken, faster. Whereas if you do it by yourself, people just say, I made some mistakes, but maybe I'll improve next time. If you want to just go all the way and get crazy, just start a YouTube channel, and that's going to push you even faster. Most people are not going to do that, but that's what the crazies will do.
That's very good. I think, honestly, I think that would work really well for my Spanish. Like that would take me up to, an advanced level. That's actually a really good suggestion.
Well, I think everyone should start a YouTube channel, but that's kind of a side thing. Well, I think that's a great answer, and I think you answered Jordan's question superbly.
Oh, thank you very much.
Sure. So, guys, if you haven't already, I would appreciate if you could hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, of course. And if you are interested in improving your English, IELTS, writing, all kinds of different things, check out the courses and the links in the description. The first links are Francis's courses, and they're on sale. There's a huge sale on Francis's courses, and mine are too, but it's not huge. It's tiny.
Tiny little sale.
A tiny little sale.
Little sale.
I think that's a good question because people often don't practice because they say, unless I have a native English speaker to talk to, I will do nothing. But it's not a yes or no thing. You can make progress. You might not be able to make all the progress, but you can make major progress by yourself in a room with a question about beans. You can improve. I Googled your question. You said, what questions do people usually ask about beans? And I get bean plant questions and answers is the first link. And the first question is, when planting beans does not make any difference if the eye is facing up or down.
Well, I'll take this one.
Oh, you're taking this one. All right.
So I think it's always best to plant the eye down because it's less creepy. If you then uncover the bean and then the eye is sort of up there staring at you, it's almost like a horror movie. So I would suggest to eyes down.
Eyes
beans
down.
With the eyes down. That's my position on that one.
Yeah.
That's the
you don't want beans. Yeah, I agree. I agree. My personal question about beans would be, why did Pythagoras hate beans so much?
Is that a question for me?
No, it's just a general question I think about it quite often. Why did Pythagoras and his whole follower cult sort of religion thing, they banned beans, and they had a strong aversion to beans. And they banned eating beans. They banned, I believe, picking up beans from the ground. They had a whole list of prohibitions that were bean related. But
Is that true?
It's true. It's true.
Wow.
It's true. It's weird, and it's true. All right, I think we can take one more question for now. Let's see. We got a shadowing question. I think that one's pretty close to what we just talked about, because shadowing is a pretty simple, well, it's a similar thing, right? Shadowing is very similar. But Alex's question is good. He's just asking about shadowing. Shadowing is like that, except you're just doing pronunciation. Let's see. Certificate of English. This is a very... Do you know... No, there's another Cambridge first question.
I better figure out that Cambridge first thing. Feels
Yeah.
like a gap in my knowledge.
This is not really a question, but what do you think about this? I suggest my learners, this must be an English teacher here, that they speak everything out loud as they do it simultaneously, such as, I'm in the kitchen cooking macaroni and cheese, the recipe. Just, does it make sense to just stand there doing stuff and just say what you do? Now I'm taking the screen cleaner and I am spraying it on the screen, and now I'm wiping it with a purple rag. Does that help, or is that just the stage before the psych ward? Yeah.
It does. Well, I mean, both, I'd say. It does seem like, if you if you live in a house like by yourself, or with your family, and they know you very well, then I think that's a pretty good thing to do. It's quite a good idea. If you live in a house with people that you don't know very well, I don't know that would give a great impression to other people.
Yeah.
I'm opening my eyes. I'm waking up.
Well, there's also, because think about the scope of that. It seems like that's a lot of stuff, and it might be, but it's all from the same point of view. I'm doing this and then doing that. So you're working on your sort of present continuous way of speaking, but you're also getting used to just saying words. So just getting into the habit of vocalizing your thoughts, you are going to be building those connections between the vocabulary that you know, and you're going to be sort of strengthening those connections in your head, right? So because you're using them more, you're accessing them more often. But why I think maybe a general question to answer, for example, recording, as we talked about, might be better, is that you don't know exactly what angle it's going to be. You might have to answer it with a personal story that you want to share as a detail. You might have to answer it in the abstract, speaking very generally. You might have to give specific examples. So I think the range of tenses and the range of grammar that you would have to use to answer a discussion question that you find online, as you suggested, or that you just make yourself, would probably be a better way in general to practice in a sort of a focused way. And not that you shouldn't describe what you're doing, but I think it's maybe not as effective as the other way.
I think it's more limited in terms of it's a good way of getting some kind of everyday vocabulary, because if you're saying like, I'm using how do I say this thing, and then you write down the thing that you don't know and then look it up later. I'm using the thing to what is this called? I don't know what this is called. So you can figure out.
It's a whisk, Francis. It's a whisk.
To me,
you're whisking the hummus. It's hummus, Francis.
I was using a spatula to stir a soup. That's what I was doing.
All right.
And how you could possibly have confused them is beyond me. Look, here's a whisk. That's a whisk. You're whisking like that. And this one is a spatula.
Wouldn't at the end of whisking you do a slow pass like that?
No, at the end of whisking you go like that, don't you?
Tap.
Sort of,
yeah.
Yeah, get rid of the rest of the egg or whatever it is.
Then you lick it up. Well, if it's just egg, you don't. But if it's
unless you're Rocky.
If it's frosting,
ooh, that's a different story.
It's a very different story.
But no, I think that the limit of that of doing that is quite limited. That's a bad sentence.
Yeah. Try again, Francis. Yeah.
The possibilities of that, like saying things as you're doing them, are pretty limited. It's a good way to start, but I think that there's only a certain number of things that we do in a normal day, isn't there? It's not like you're going to be saying, I'm about to jump out of this plane and open my parachute.
Right.
It's not something that happens every day
Right.
for
I'm
most
about
people.
to discover a new law of nature, and then describe that.
Exactly.
Unlikely. Yeah, I
Um,
agree. And grammatically, it's very limit. It's a very limited structure. But I think we're in total agreement on this one.
yeah.
Again, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead and give the video a like if you like it. If you don't like it, then do the other one if you like. Do the other one if you like. And if you like, do the other one. And subscribe so that you can see future videos. Also, check out the courses, Francis's courses, in the links in the description. All right. Well, so there's a question that came up. Alex asked a question that kind of matches a question that I had. So maybe we can get back to a question that I had, because we talked about your English or your language learning journey. But as an English teacher, I'm kind of curious how that applies. So Alex asks a question. He says, which methods are worst for learning language? And my question was, what are the things that students should avoid doing that they often do? In other words, things that students spend a lot of time on that they should spend either no time on or less time on, right? And what should they do instead? And maybe just one thing. I know that you talked about before, you talked about the vocabulary thing that students, and I would agree with that students should avoid learning isolated words.
Right.
Don't learn a dictionary, because then, okay, great, you know the word. But then what? Right, how are you going to use it in a sentence now? Go ahead, try. I'm waiting, and you can't, because you just know maybe just that word defined in your own language, not particularly useful, right? If it's in context, if you know how to use it, much better. But are there any things that you've come across that you think, don't do that, just don't do that, and do something else instead?
I think that, well, I mean, honestly, that's the biggest one that I've seen.
Yeah.
And I must say that a lot of my students are from China. So I'm not sure if that's a Chinese sort of particular habit, or if that's something that applies to language learners from all around the world. But I think the other thing is to don't just do things that feel safe. And that's something that I have a big problem with. So let me give you an example then. So for me, if I'm like, one thing that I did to improve my Spanish was to read Harry Potter. I read some of the Harry Potter books in Spanish, and it's good.
How do you say Harry Potter in Spanish?
Harry Potter.
How do you say Voldemort in Spanish?
Voldemort. They don't change the name.
Do you have to? So you say it, and you have to say it in sort of a sexy way, because that's very romantic when you say it like that somehow.
I mean, it's presumably how Antonio Banderas would say it.
Mm-hmm.
I am Voldemort, and I am here to kill Harry Potter.
Why did you change the last part to English? You should say it in Spanish.
Soy Voldemort. Yo estoy aquí para matar el Harry Potter.
Very nice. I like it. It makes me want to watch Harry Potter in Spanish.
And I said El Harry Potter, which probably isn't right. It probably should just
be Los Harry Potter, right?
Los Harry Potteros.
Yeah.
Un grupo de Harry Potter.
Yeah. Anyway, you were saying, yeah, you were talking about feeling safe, right? So maybe we could give a few examples of that kind of behavior of just living in your safe, because I totally agree. I think it's a major issue, but maybe a few examples of things that are best, not necessarily avoided, but kept as 10-minute things here and there, right? What would be some examples of that?
I think honestly, like it's quite a hard question to answer, because everybody has their own things that they do, right? The things that they do that are sort of really safe to them. I think it's more a question of finding the things that make you feel very safe, but that aren't challenging. Maybe things that you've been doing for a long time, and finding a way to change that. How can you maybe get the same result? Let's say if it's, I don't know. I'll give you an example from me personally. So I recently realized that in my team, my company that I run, which is called Last Minute English, the rest of my team is Chinese, but they all speak really good English. So we've kind of got to the point where all of our conversations were in English. And then I found, I thought about that, and I thought, okay, every time I'm in a rush, I'll send them a message and it's in English. And then gradually it went from being in a rush to being every time.
Yeah.
So it's become a very safe habit for me. I mean, it's not technically a language learning habit there,
Right.
but it's a safe habit and it's a missed opportunity. And so what I've done, I started this like last week. I've started writing every message that I send to my team in Chinese. And already I'm finding that, you know, I'm picking up new words. I get to a sentence and I have to figure out one of the words. And so I have to go and look at it. And I'm a little bit embarrassed because what if the team...
Shame is powerful.
Yeah,
embarrassment
indeed.
is very powerful.
So I have to take a little bit more time, and also I have to think about what I'm writing a little bit more. I have to take more time to think, okay, is this, you know, the right message? Should I say this in a different way? Whereas in English, because I'm a native English speaker, I just go, all right, brrr, send,
right,
like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good example. What I tell, I mean, let me know if you agree or disagree, but what I tell people generally is, you're right. It's hard to find a specific example. One example, quite frankly, and I probably shouldn't say this, is watching a live stream. I mean,
terrible.
Right,
terrible.
Really. I mean, for entertainment, for picking up tips and ideas, that's great. But if you really want to improve, don't say, oh, I watched a live stream today. Now my spoken English is going to be better. Those two things, that adds to your maybe knowledge base or how you approach the language, but doesn't actually do the work for you of making you better. And so what I generally tell people is, imagine you're on a hike, and your goal on the hike is to be slightly out of breath the whole time. If you're walking on a flat plane, you might as well just be walking on a road, and you're not really getting the benefits of what you would get if you're on a hike. Now, if you're climbing a cliff, then you're probably just going to say, I can't do that. That's crazy. I don't have the gear. I'm just not going to do that. But if you're on a slight uphill, and you just ask yourself, do I feel slightly out of breath here? Then you're probably getting that perfect balance. When you go on a hike, you want to get slightly winded because it's more of a workout. It's a little uncomfortable, but not too uncomfortable. You're right up against the edge of your abilities, or at least you feel a little bit closer to that. Yeah. And so but that's not a specific activity. That's a feeling that you have. And I think there's a similar feeling when you're trying to express yourself in English, or when you're practicing your English. You feel slightly uncomfortable. If you're listening to something, you don't understand everything, and it's a little frustrating. You feel that feeling, but not overwhelmed, and that's exactly where you should live. And if you're there all the time, then that is going to keep moving forward, and you're going to actually make progress. If you do that thing and it gets easy, then the ground is flat again and you're just walking along. So just because that thing was difficult yesterday doesn't mean it's going to be difficult tomorrow. That's called progress. And so you're constantly changing the incline to make it a little more difficult, and that's how you improve in anything almost, but also for language learning.
You could also say that about in the gym, running on a treadmill.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
what's a treadmill?
Hold on, is that a different? Is that a joke or is that a different
I'm just
American?
making a joke about me not exercising very often. So
Oh,
anyway.
I see. I get it. We're on the same page now. Or you like with another gym example, lifting weights.
Yeah.
If you go in and the first day you lift like the little 5 kilo ones, then yeah, like it might be hard at first, but if you stay there forever, then it's a waste of time.
The benefits don't. Yeah.
You want to be moving up
Yeah.
to something where it's still possible, but it's difficult. I think that's very good. I think the hiking example's an excellent one.
Yeah. Eventually, you'll be curling Volvos. Well, that's great advice. That's good advice. So I hope that answers people's questions who are thinking about what they should be spending their time on. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button. That would be great. Don't forget to subscribe, of course, and check out the courses in the links. Francis's courses are there. They are on sale, and also my courses are there. My courses are also on sale, but Francis's are at the top, so check those out. Make sure to check those out. They're great. They're amazing. We got an awesome comment. So there's a guy in the WhatsApp group. He's a very funny guy, and apparently he is or was watching. He said his name is Pablo. He said the etymology of my last name, Favaza, I guess, is great plantation of fava beans in Old Italian, which is awesome. That's so awesome. You were talking, and I almost started laughing, and I was really trying to hold it back because I don't know why I find this hilarious. This name, what does your name mean? The Great Plantation of Fava Beans. Brilliant. And that's exactly the type of bean that Pythagoras hated most. I mean, he was dead against fava beans. That was the number one bean on his hate list. That was the number one no bean.
No bean here.
No beans. Music? Yes. Good. Triangles? Of course. Beans? No.
I wonder what would have happened if they discovered a triangular bean.
Well, yeah. What is the hypotenuse of this triangular bean? Get out. I mean, 2.5. I don't know why I'm giving Pythagoras an accent, but whatever. He probably had one compared to me.
Presumably.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't even be speaking English, but that's overanalyzing it.
Did you ever hear the story of Gladiator, the movie Gladiator, where? So I guess most people have seen the movie, right? You remember that movie, Luke?
It's a classic. Yeah.
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 So the guy is Russell Crowe. Is
Joaquin Phoenix and Russell Crowe.
Yeah, it's an incredible cast. It's an absolute Richard Harris.
Who else is in that?
Mm-hmm. Richard Harris.
It's got an amazing soundtrack.
Oh yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 movie.
Howard Shore, I think, right? Howard Shore soundtrack, something like. I think so.
It sounds like the name of a person, so I'll go along with it. But yeah, so he this character Maximus is Spanish, and they call him the Spaniard. I hear you're the one they call the Spaniard. Mm-hmm. And so when they started to do rehearsals for that, Russell Crowe asked Ridley Scott, who was the director. He's like, so Ridley, so you want me to do like some kind of a Spanish accent for this then? Like, because he's, I'm reading about the character and the character's from Spain. So I guess I'll talk like this or something. And so what do you want, Rids? He calls him Rids.
He calls him Rids.
In my mind.
Yeah, okay.
And Ridley Scott, who I think is English, but I'm not sure.
He might be, yeah. That sounds about right.
So, no, I don't want you to do that. He's also Michael Caine. I don't want you to
Wait a second. What is this journey through? Okay. Make him South African. Can you do that?
I can do South African.
Make him South African. Ridley Scott, South African.
Right. Listen, Russell. Okay, so I don't want that. Okay, I don't want a Spanish accent. What I want is a lovely, just British. I want just sort of neutral English accent. Okay, that's what we're going for because that's what when people talk about the when give up.
It's collapsing. It's collapsing.
Yeah, when people talk about that, right? When people think about the old times, like the Roman Empire, they think about a British accent. And we really do. Like
We really do.
when we
Yeah.
watch those movies, like if you watch a movie like Gladiator or like, Pirates of the Caribbean even, and all of these different things, um, everybody has an English accent, which is
I know
really
why.
strange.
I know the reason.
Oh, what's the reason?
I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
Because the British accent represents the old. Because you have a comparison. Because this is not a slam, but you have American movies which are a thing that's out there, and because of the prevalence of American movies, people get used to this accent as this is what modern movies are. So I think a lot of the time, if you want to make something old, well, it's got to be in English, but if we did an American accent, it doesn't give it that sort of old characteristic. So let's do a British accent, because if we try to put on, well, if they're would sound something like an Italian accent, probably if they were really doing it, it might sound something like more like an Italian accent. That's going to be distracting to people. So what is the balance between distracting and old feeling? British accent.
I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's still very odd when you think about it. There's these guys hanging around it, like the movie 300. It's well, I mean, technically he has a Scottish accent,
Right.
but yeah, he's they're hanging out in Sparta, which is definitely not part of the UK. I've checked, and it is, yeah, everybody's speaking like this. They have who's in that movie? Dominic West, who is you might know. Did you watch The Wire, Luke? He's McNulty in The Wire. He's a famous British actor.
Okay.
And he's talking like this, and then they have everybody's talking in a very posh sort of British accent, but they always put on a bit of a thing in their throat like that.
Yeah.
And that bit I don't really understand. I mean, I can sort of understand the British part, but why the throat part?
Got to sound manly. Spartans left their children out to be eaten by wolves. You need to sound manly.
Well, I suppose.
Yeah.
Go on, out you go. The
Yeah.
wolves are hungry.
Part of the
We'll see
training regimen
tomorrow.
for the 300, the movie, was 2 packs a day. Yeah. What was the point of that story? I'm trying to think.
It's important to learn English well.
Yeah.
I think that's what we were saying.
Yeah. Yes, it's a good movie. It's a great movie. Oh, we were talking about fava beans. You somehow went from fava beans to Gladiator, and I can't remember how that went. Somehow that happened. Because I was talking about fava beans and Pythagoras, and you said, oh, then you started talking about Gladiator.
No,
And
I found the link. You were doing Pythagoras in an accent.
Right. Okay.
And
I
I
think-
think that's legitimate. It seemed like a good decision because he would have sounded somewhat Greek.
One thing that I really like that they did, I didn't really like the movie Valkyrie with Tom Cruise, but one thing that they did, which was very cool, was they started the movie with him writing a letter, speaking German, and then they cut to him in the tent writing the letter, and he was speaking English. So you go, okay, all right, so this is just for me to sort of understand the movie, but I know that it's all really in German. So they kind of do that trick, which I thought was a very interesting technique, and I, suspension of disbelief. I bought it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I remember that. I remember thinking, that's a smart way to do it.
But for a lot of movies where there are Germans, they'll do a German English
Yeah.
accent, which is very interesting. Like everybody's speaking a normal British accent, and then the German, and because they have to make the German guy the bad guy usually, and every
Yeah.
bad guy has a German accent, so the bad guy will come in and say, "Oh, what's going on here?" Then okay, he's the villain. For some
Yeah.
reason, American movies always do that.
That's true.
Yeah,
That is the exception that proves the rule.
right. Mary says, Luke, you make your guests get out of their comfort zone. I'm not sure if that's a criticism or a compliment. I make my guests uncomfortable. Francis, do you feel uncomfortable? You can say yes.
Yes, deeply uncomfortable. I'm a little bit uncomfortable, to be honest, but it's mostly because of the chair that I'm sitting in.
Right.
It's not very. We're on holiday, sort of.
Well, I think. Oh yeah, you don't have your spot, but I mean, this
Yeah.
looks like a pretty good background. I think we can call it a day, almost. But I was hoping we could look at one thing. Is that okay with you? So I asked.
I'll look at a thing. I'll look
All
at
right.
it.
This is the last thing, and I appreciate you coming on. I hope we can do more of these in the future. I enjoy them, but I asked some of the people in the WhatsApp group to submit videos. We got a video that I want to share, and the purpose of this was to get feedback. How can I improve, basically? So we're going to watch a video that one of the regular viewers, Jeet, sent in. Chandra Jeet sent in. I never know what to call her because her screen name is always Jeet, but her actual name is Chandra or Chandra. Anyway, let's take a look, and then any tips in general, any feedback on how she could improve her speaking. All right?
Okay.
You ready for this? Everyone's asking about the WhatsApp group. Guys, I always mention the WhatsApp group, but I don't know how to explain it. I'm just kind of just a normal person in the group. Yes, it's true. I am technically the admin of the group, but I almost take no responsibility for the group at all. I just send GIFs in there, pretty much. That's all I do. And so but that's kind of cool because this group has its own little culture. And I think the members of the group who chat in there are protective of the culture. So if you want to get in the group, you find somebody either on Facebook or in the YouTube comments who's in the group and talk to them and ask them to let you in, because they're the real decision makers. I've got nothing to do with it. I'm not the gatekeeper. I'm just the guy with the big red button. Hard C sound, so it's Chandra. I said it right the first time. Okay.
Chandra.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look. And thank you for sending this in, Chandra. Or Jeet. Okay, here we go.
Hello. Hello, Francis. I hope you all are doing great. And first of all, I would like to thank you for giving me such an opportunity to be here, not only as a viewer but also as a participant or a member. And let me introduce myself. My first name is Chandra. I'm very happy today that you planned this live lesson for all of us, and I'm feeling like I'm going to give an attempt to an IELTS examination as we have a IELTS examiner today with us, and I really like to welcome him. And I want to give my best wishes to all of you, including viewers or the audience. And I just want to say that don't be so late, give it a start. And I must say that this is my very first virtual communication with such great native speakers. So I never wanted to miss this. And I just want to say that Maybe your start could be bad or even worse than bad, but still give it a try and you will succeed one day.
All right.
All right, very nice.
Good stuff. Thank you so much, Chanda, for sending that in. That's I have to say before you give your thoughts, Francis, just brave to be in front of people and make a video that other people are going to see and put yourself out there. Anytime you do that, I think you're making a step in the right direction.
Exactly. I mean, it's what we said before, like about doing something that's a bit scary, that's sort of outside of your comfort zone. Is a much faster way to improve than just staying with the things that are safe and easy. So yeah, I completely agree. That's a great thing.
Fear of embarrassment is a good thing when it comes to making progress.
Agreed.
I think. Yeah. Any thoughts on what she might do to improve overall fluency? Whatever stuck out to you as an English teacher yourself?
Well, as an IELTS examiner, like the way that they score the IELTS speaking test is on four areas. We have grammar, fluency, vocabulary, and pronunciation. And I think that Chandra had pretty good grammar. First of all, like there was some different like types of sentences and not really any obvious grammar mistakes that I heard. So grammar looking good. Fluency, I think that maybe it's just Chandra's speaking style, but she spoke quite slowly. And the examiner might think of that as being not such a fluent performance. Fluency is not just about how fast you speak, but it is one of the things that the examiner will notice. So that could be something for Chandra to improve, try to improve fluency and maybe a little bit of speaking speed. Pronunciation, I thought was pretty good. I think we could understand everything that Chandra said. At least I could. Luke, you might have comments about that. And then vocabulary. Well, Chandra wasn't talking about sort of anything very specific, like beans, for example. So it's hard for us with only just one video to know, how is Chandra's vocabulary in lots of different areas. But based on this video, like pretty good vocabulary, natural choices of language, and so overall pretty good. Luke, did you notice any pronunciation things?
So there's one thing that I think could stick out to people that might give them a sort of slight pause when they're listening to that, and I think I agree with your points. But adding a sound, especially a vowel sound after "and," can sometimes make people think, was that a different word? So when you said the word, each time you said the word "and," you added an So you said "and." And I think if you just cut that short and you just say "and," and it's a little bit shorter, then it's going to come across a little bit more naturally. And also to be aware of the V sound. When you say the V sound, make sure it's a V with your bottom lip touching your teeth and not mixed up with the W sound, which is pushed forward like that. So that's something that stuck out to me. And I think maybe you're a little nervous doing a video, but that's very natural. And that slight difficulty, that slight discomfort, that slight frustration, that's where you want to be. So if you keep practicing this and if you keep trying it, you're not going to feel nervous anymore. Maybe the next time you do a video, write a simple outline of ideas you want to talk about. Maybe I want to talk about beans, or maybe I want to talk about travel, or pick something and just write a couple of words down to remind you of what you want to say, like an outline, very simple outline. And then just try to talk through it. And then watch the video back and try to give yourself a little feedback. And I think you'll find that you make progress really quickly, and you start to feel a lot more confident as well. Yeah. But yeah, great. Thanks for sending that in, and I think it's a cool thing to be able to sort of participate with Chandra in that way. Not something we've tried before. Pretty cool.
No, it worked very well though. Yeah, I'd like to see more of those in the future.
So would I. Yeah, if you guys are interested in doing this kind of thing, well, somehow get in touch. And I don't know. I haven't figured that part out. I have no logistics. Guys, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. Also, hit the like button if you like the video. And of course, check out the courses in the links in the description. Those are on sale, so make sure to check those out. Okay, well, I think we can call it a day. I think we covered quite a lot, Francis. I really appreciate you doing this, and I hope we can do more of these in the future. It's fun.
It is, yeah.
Even though we get twisted up and we don't know what we're talking about anymore, I guess that's something that can't be helped.
And doing silly voices.
Yeah,
I mean,
doing
that's
silly voices.
You know, if you tune into like a live stream of me and Luke, eventually we're going to talk about some kind of a movie from the 2000s, and we'll do some silly voices, and there'll be references to
legumes, beans,
exactly,
tubers,
and various plants. But thank you very much, Luke. It's been very enjoyable. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And guys, Francis is doing a 60% sale, which I think is, I'm not sure why he's decided to do that. I think it's a little extreme. So I'm sure that in the next day or two, he'll probably realize that that's way too big and probably take it down. So while you have the chance, go to the first two links in the description. Check out those courses. It's worth it. It's an investment in yourself, in your confidence, so that you can actually make progress and improve. There is one free one, but check out the others as well. There's a reason that courses are free and a reason that some are not. Right? Am I right about that?
That's true.
Usually the ones that are not for a reason. I mean, very longer, a little bit more in depth. You get a lot more from them. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, Francis.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks, everyone.
See
you
ya.
next time.